face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Greeting viewers across the continent and beyond. You're turned into Pulse of Africa News, live from Addis Ababa, Africa's diplomatic home. I'm Magdalena Tinaga, and you're here with the stories that matter. Stay tuned. We begin with Ethiopian calls Turkey back for peaceful sea access. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on Tuesday called on Turkey to support Ethiopia's effort to secure peaceful access to the sea, as he held a joint press conference with Recep Tayyip Erdogan at the National Palace in Addis Ababa. Addressing the media following their bilateral talks on Thursday, Prime Minister Abiy stressed that the sustaining Ethiopia's rapid economic growth requires resolving structural bottlenecks, particularly in logistic and maritime access. He noted that Ethiopia, with a population of over 130 million, has remained landlocked for decades, contrary to global economic trends, describing the situation as historically unjust. The sustainability of our growth cannot be ensured if a nation of over 130 million people continues to be denied access to the sea and remains a geographic prisoner. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said such a really runs counter to prevailing global practices and contemporary economic trends. The Premier further stated that Ethiopia and Turkey held extensive discussions on how friendly nations like Turkey can play a constructive diplomatic role in supporting Ethiopia's quest to obtain sea access through peaceful and mutually beneficial means. He underlined that logistics remains one of the biggest bottlenecks to Ethiopia's development, emphasizing that sea access is key to unlocking the country's full economic potential. In that regard, the Prime Minister expressed appreciation for President Erdogan's engagement on the matter. The two leaders also agreed to scale up bilateral trade to at least $1 billion and beyond, diversifying business sectors and encouraging more Turkish companies to invest in Ethiopia, both for the domestic market and for export to Africa. Prime Minister Abiy highlighted that Ethiopia is among the fastest growing economies globally and is expecting 10.2% growth this fiscal year. The leaders further agreed to strengthen appreciation in counter-terrorism and deepen collaboration in multilateral platforms, including climate diplomacy, as Turkey prepares to host COP this year and Ethiopia 2027. In the same news, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said his country attaches great importance to further developing our centuries-old relations with the friendly people of Ethiopia. This came in a joint press briefing Erdogan gave together with his host Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Erdogan arrived on Addis Ababa on Tuesday for a state visit as per invitation accorded to him by Prime Minister Abiy. I congratulate Prime Minister Abiy on the political, social and economic transformation of Ethiopia since he took office, Erdogan underscored, noting that the transformation gave him grace in the eyes of the whole world, whose attention, he said, now turned to the Horn of Africa. The Turkish president, who had just enjoyed a guided tour of Palace Museum, has appreciated what he described as Ethiopia's long-term established state structure and exemplary governance are becoming more and more important. Erdogan also held Ethiopia's rail and airport infrastructure development and ongoing expansions that link up regional, continental and global markets. He indicated Ethiopia's revered Islamic culture, recounting the history of Najashi and the tombs of the companions of the Prophet at the Najashi Mosque in Tigray regional state. A history, he said, marked the first pilgrimage and the first Islamic settlement on Africa and beyond. TICA is the agency that restored the Najashi Mosque at Wukro in Tigray, enhancing the site's significance as an Islamic pilgrimage and tourist destination. Moving on to the issue of regional peace and stability, Erdogan said his country takes joy in seeing the normalization of nations between Ethiopia and Somalia holding. Erdogan played a mediation role during a brief period of tense relations between the two neighboring countries in 2024. President Erdogan, during the joint press briefing, also said his country will cooperate with Ethiopia in hosting the COP32 2 years from now. Turkey is due to the host of the Conference of Parties to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change COP in November. I once again thank the Prime Minister and the people of Ethiopia for the warm hospitality extended to myself and to my delegation. And finally, I wholeheartedly congratulate the Muslim community of Ethiopia on the holy month of Ramadan, Erdogan said. The two countries are expected to sign a raft of agreement during the two-day visit of the high-level Turkey delegation led by President Erdogan.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
African Union Commission Chairperson Muhammad Ali Yusuf has joined leaders around the world in mourning the passing of Jesse Louis Jackson at the age of 84. He described him as a towering champion of justice, equality, and human dignity. The chairperson noted that Rev. Jackson's lifelong advocacy for civil rights, economic justice, and political inclusion closely aligned with the African Union's mandate to promote human rights, combat racial discrimination, and advance the global African agenda, including recognition of the African diaspora as the continent's sixth region. As founder of the Rainbow Push Coalition and a close associate of Martin Luther King, Jr. Rev. Jackson played a leading role in the struggle against systematic racism and injustice. He also expressed an enduring solidarity with African liberation movements and the fight against apartheid, contributing to international efforts to dismantle racial oppressions. The chairperson conveyed heartfelt condolences to Rev. Jackson's family, the government and people of the United States of America and the global civil rights community, affirming that his legacy will continue to inspire the Pan-African vision of unity, dignity, and shared progress. The International Organization for Migration (IOM) on Tuesday launched a $91 million funding appeal to support about 1.2 million migrants and host communities in the Great Horn of Africa and Southern African regions. The funding appeal, launched under the Regional Migrant Response Plan for the Horn of Africa to Yemen and Southern Africa, was unveiled in Nairobi, the Kenyan capital. IOM Director General Amy Pope stressed in a video message that sustainable financing is key to tackling the migration crisis in the Greater Horn of Africa and Southern African regions fueled by climate change, instability, and poverty. Pope said the Migrant Response Plan aims to protect the rights, dignity, safety, and livelihoods of migrants and host communities in a region grappling with sporadic conflicts, climate shocks, and high youth unemployment. Adequate funding is required to provide humanitarian support to these migrants and their host communities and to enhance stability, resilience, and inclusive growth across the region, Pope said. This support is not just a humanitarian, it is an investment. We must turn this migrant response plan into protection, solutions, and hope for the people who depend on us, Pope added. Migrants traveling from the Horn of Africa to the Southern Africa region, including women, children, and youth, face significant risks of violence, trafficking, abduction, torture, and dehydration, forced labor, according to the IOM. Heading to business news, President John Dramani Mahama has unveiled an ambitious blueprint to transform Ghana into a major exporter of processed three-crop products, declaring an end to the long-standing practice of shipping unprocessed cashew, shea, and rubber abroad while re-importing finished goods at inflated price. Opening the Made in Ghana Three Crops Investment Summit in Accra on Tuesday, President Mahama reaffirmed his administration's commitment to expanding Ghana's export base and leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, for industrial growth. The four-day summit, running through February 20 at the Accra International Conference Center, operates under the theme Sustainable Growth through Three-Crop Investments, Resting and Building Ghana's Green Economy. The president outlined a national blueprint targeting $12 billion in annual three-crop exports, earning by 2035, anchored by a commitment to process between 50 and 60% of cashew, shea, and rubber output domestically each year. We can continue to export raw materials and import finished goods at a premium. Value addition must happen here at home, he said. Central to the plan is a $500 million investment to develop 100,000 hectares of oil palm plantations under the National Integrated Oil Palm Development Policy for 2026 to 2032, projected to create 250,000 direct jobs across farming, processing, logistics, and allied services. The president described oil palm as a red gold and called on investors to seize opportunities in the sector without delay. Mahama also confirmed the reactivation of the $200 million Ghana Three-Crop Diversification Project, financed by the World Bank, which will distribute improved seedlings to farmers and provide matching grants to small and medium-scale enterprises engaged in processing and value addition, supporting more than 30,000 farmers in the process. Dangote Group has signed a $400 million construction equipment agreement with XCMG Construction Machinery, COLT, to accelerate the expansion of the Dangote Petroleum Refinery and petrochemicals from 650,000 barrels per day to 1.4 million barrels per day, positioning it to become the largest refinery in the world. The agreement will enable the group to acquire a wide range of advanced construction equipment to support ongoing and upcoming projects across refining, petrochemicals, agriculture, and large-scale infrastructure development. The new equipment will complement existing assets already deployed for the refinery expansion, which is expected to be completed within 3 years. Beyond refining, the expansion program will increase polypropylene production capacity from 900,000 metric tons per annum to 2.4 million metric tons per annum. Urea production capacity in Nigeria will be tripled from 3 million to 9 million metric tons per annum, in addition to the existing 3 million metric tons per annum capacity in Ethiopia, reinforcing the group's position as the world's largest urea producer. Production capacity for linear alkali benzene, LAB, will rise to 400,000 metric tons per annum, making the group the largest producer in Africa and strengthening supply to the detergent and cleaning agent industry, while additional base oil capacity also forms part of the expansion. The group described the agreement as a strategic investment to deepen its construction footprint, its fast track its ambition of building a 100 billion enterprise by 2030. The Ghana Football Association GFA has officially confirmed an exciting international friendly between the Black Stars and Mexico, blistering preparations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. This match marks the third warm-up fixture for Otto Addo's squad as they sharpen their edge for the global tournament kicking off in June. Ghana already locked in high-stakes friendliness against Austria and Germany in March, making the Mexico clash a crucial addition. Facing one of the tournament's hosts, the nation provides the Black Stars with a tough test against a team familiar with North American conditions, helping them fine-tune strategies for the showpiece event. For Mexico, the game serves as the prime preparations for their opening World Cup clash against South Africa on June 11th. This encounter gives the North American hands-on experience against the dynamic African opposition, mirroring the tactical intensify they will face early in the tournament. Next, let's check the current weather forecast. That's all for this hour's news, and thank you for watching Pulse of Africa.